And today I have a very special guest. Welcome, Mary Janet MacDonald.
Thank you very much for having
Now,
me.
Mary Janet is like an internet sensation. I think you're probably one of the biggest internet sensations I know.
Really?
Yeah. Mary Janet every Sunday has a show, and I think it's on Facebook.
It's Facebook Live, yeah.
Yeah. And it also shows up on YouTube sometimes.
Yes, it does.
Okay. And what she does is something that I think anybody in Canada who's ever been to Cape Breton and wanted to live here, I think this is what they look for. She opens her kitchen with cooking and musicians. Mm-hmm. So where did this idea come from?
Well, it happened really accidentally. Talking to our daughter, probably that first week of COVID, like around March 17th, 18th, we were talking on the phone about what can we do to pass the time if we're all going to be isolated, etc. And she came up with the idea. She said, "Mom, why don't you show everybody how to make your cinnamon rolls? Go on Facebook Live." Well, I didn't know how to do that, so she's telling me how to do it. And that was the first show, and of course I recorded it probably the wrong way. The camera was up and down, not landscape. And it's a family favorite recipe, and she thought, oh, well, just some family and friends will watch and make sure it's on public and go for it. And that's how it started, innocently enough. But there was so much interest from it that I continued the next Sunday and very quickly started my own Facebook page because my personal page just got flooded. So
that's because you did something good. And you know, it's amazing what has come out of COVID. You know, those little things that you would least expect to do yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I'm sure that this was not something that you had ever planned on doing.
No, absolutely not. I couldn't believe it, that there was so much interest and comfort in people alone and really enjoying it.
Well, that's the word, right? Comfort.
Yeah.
You know, because social isolation is a horrible thing. And I think that you've become almost family to your viewers.
I feel that way. So many of them are just like friends, and we communicate all the time with some of them, you know, and it's just become something I look forward to every week.
Well, I think it's something that other people look forward to every week as well.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some of the hits on your shows have been incredible.
It's amazing.
Amount of people watching.
Yeah, it depends on what I've picked to bake on that particular Sunday, or maybe I might say who the musical guest is going to be. It depends on that too. And it's just become just a really nice Sunday afternoon gathering.
Now, you've had some interesting guests. Mm-hmm. Now, you've had a few of our locals.
Yes.
Robert Bouchard and Nick Boudreau.
Yes.
I mean,
amazing.
Yes. Absolutely amazing.
Loved them.
Right, and they loved being there.
That's so good.
And you had some funny guests. You did have two gentlemen on there not too long ago. I think I watched that a couple times.
Yeah.
And they were friends of your children's, right?
Yes. Musical friends of our children, Jimmy Inch and Jason Price, and Jason Great Country Flavor. And it was just kind of a little Facebook post between my son and Tony Ronalds, who used to be in my son's band, and just, you should go on Mary Janet's show and show her how to bake, and they tagged me in it, and it just became this little thing. And I said, well, come on down. But I was thinking nobody's going to come down from Halifax. But they did, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really fun to watch, actually. Really fun to watch. They're quite characters.
They are characters, yeah, especially that Jimmy.
Oh, yes.
You don't know what he's going to say.
But that's kind of the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a natural thing. You know, you're in your own kitchen and you're inviting people in for a little session, you know?
Well, personally, I can't make bread.
Yes.
So your shows have helped me some.
Oh, good.
You know, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my children will appreciate it. I tried to bake once. Didn't work out too well.
Okay.
But I was known as the mother who could bake rocks for their Tonka trucks that were edible. So I gained that notoriety, not on purpose. So now, what do your children think about all of this?
Well, look, they're my biggest fans. Really, they encouraged me to keep on going, and you can do this, Mom, and we'll help. And so our son looks after the YouTube and posting the video to YouTube, and with many other little glitches that I've had, he's fixed that. Margie, the one out west, well, she looks after a lot of things as well, and our daughter Tammy out west, she watches for trolls on the Facebook post, and she checks. So I mean, it's just everybody's involved, and every one of them are so supportive. So I wouldn't be able to do it without their encouragement.
And you think about it, without the internet and without this avenue,
Yes.
you guys may not be doing things as a family otherwise.
That's right. I think we're even more in touch now than we were before COVID. You know, you'd have the once a week phone call or whatever, but now everybody's engaged, you know, saying, okay, can you do this or that? And it's really nice.
So do you get ideas from your viewers? Do they send you ideas?
Oh, yes, they send me ideas and they send me recipes. You know, can you try this one? There's one lady I checked the other day because she's sending so many recipes that I've made a folder. And I just checked the other day, the number is almost at 700 recipes that she sent me. Some of them are links to recipes that she sees. And she's a senior citizen living in BC, and just always sends me things. I bet you'd really like this or whatever. Try this one, and she enjoys that.
See how beautiful that must be for you to know that she's watching from all the way in BC.
Yeah, it's just wonderful.
And that you're impacting her life.
She just, it's every day. She sends me things. It's just so nice.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, we've become, and she's an artist as well.
Wow.
And she did an old Father Christmas picture, and she copied it, and I got it framed, and I had it for Christmas. And every time I look at it, I think of her because, you know, it's pretty special. For her to take that time to get it in a tube and send it all across Canada to me, I really appreciate that, you know.
So now, did you come from a family of cooks or musicians?
I think most of the Cape Breton kitchens, I think baking was a big part of it. And when you had to have something in for tea, if somebody dropped in for a visit, and it was that little pantry that you had to have a biscuit, and you had to have maybe a piece of pie and maybe a cookie. So I grew up in that kind of environment, and Sunday evenings were my time at the home that I was raised in to have stuff for tea. And it was just a natural thing to gravitate to. And when we were young and had the 7 children all at home, it was expensive to get stuff for lunches. So I just naturally turned to baking stuff for them, and get up early in the morning, make the cinnamon rolls, or make cookies or biscuits or something. And I didn't know this, but many times they would trade off the home baking with the other kids who had store-bought cookies. And they only revealed that many years later.
It's funny what you find out.
I know.
I found out some things too.
Oh yeah, we've done that.
As my children got older. And usually they find, they sometimes will still keep things from me just so they can kind of bounce it on me at some other occasion, so they can watch for my reaction together.
Oh my God.
So, you know, kids, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, it only means that they love us.
I know. So. It's great.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So now you are also related to Natalie.
Yes. Well, let me explain that, because I do call her my niece, and I call her mother my sister.
Right.
But in my life, in my early life, my parents had 5 children. They had 6 children, but one had passed away as a baby. And I was the fourth one born. And the next year, my brother was born. But in between my birth and my brother's birth, our mother had cervical carcinoma.
Oh.
And so that youngest child was taken early and certainly survived and all of that. So our father in those days, the fathers weren't the fathers that present day fathers are, right? So he was able to look after the three oldest, who were like 9 and 7 and 5 and in school. So the two youngest went to two other families right in the community of Mabu. And both of those mothers were our grandmother's two sisters.
I see.
So two grandaunts. And I went there when she was going through treatments and whatever. So at the age of 3, when she passed away, when I was 3 and she was only 37, I moved into the Beaton household. They had 6 children of their own, one of them being Natalie's mom. But they were my family too. And they were my mama and my papa and my brothers and sisters. But now that Natalie is kind of famous, I feel I have to clarify that. But really, we live as if she is my niece, and her mom is, we talk every day, her mom and I, basically.
But she is.
She is.
Really.
She really is.
I mean, it's it's sometimes, just how you feel. And I mean, you were raised there.
Yes, I was raised there.
It's your home.
So I got married.
It's your family.
That's right.
So, I mean, that's...
Yeah, I know. And I mean, but music was totally a part of that home. My real parents were very musical and loved to dance, and my mother was a beautiful Gaelic singer. And into the house that I was raised, they would gather the neighbors in and have Gaelic songs and English songs, and it was just that kind of an environment. And there'd be fiddlers dropping in, and Minnie, Natalie's mom, was a wonderful step dancer, and of course she took it upon herself to teach me. She said she would hold my hand and I would feel the rhythm through her hand, and so I went on to teach step dancing.
Wow.
And perform and teach many places that I never would have ever been able to travel to had I not learned from her.
Right. So that brings me to this question. The cooking I understand now better.
Yes.
But how did you decide to have musicians?
Well, that first show of the cinnamon rolls, our son Brennan lives up in Oakfield near the airport near Halifax, and they have 2 girls. The oldest girl, Anna, she was making the cinnamon rolls live with me, and she just came out and said, Grandma should continue this, and she should call it Tunes and Wooden Spoons, whatever,
Wow.
Whatever, because she is a singer as well, and sings along with her dad in many little gigs that they might have here and there. And that very week, everything happened. A Facebook page, a YouTube, a website, Twitter, and an Instagram, like inundated with that kind of stuff that Grandma wasn't great at, and an email address, but everything happened all like that. And because of the tunes and her name, it just was a natural thing, because I kind of think I had music in the background maybe on that first, just recorded music. It was actually Natalie, yes it was, Natalie's Sketches CD that I was playing in the background that day, and that's where granddaughter Anna got that idea, and so it was born. But you couldn't have anyone in your home in those first few episodes. And the first one that came along, Mitchell, our youngest son, who lives just over the road from us, he came over onto our doorstep and he sang on that first show that we actually had live music. And it just kind of happened like that. That's basically it. But now I have musical guests almost every Sunday. I'm booked right into June now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Whoa.
So it's so nice to use the platform to
Think of all the
bring that music to people,
Well, think of all the lovely people you're going to meet.
I know.
And I mean, they're also very lucky to meet you.
Oh, I'm just so happy that I can promote Cape Breton in any way I can.
Oh, you're also very lovely.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you're actually exactly the type of personality that people expect when they come to Cape Breton.
I get a lot of emails, of course, and comments and whatever, but I get a lot of emails from people who missed out uh, with a relationship with mom or with grandma, and they're at the point in their life that they forgot that, but this is bringing them, they feel closer to, they wish they had have gotten that recipe or this recipe, or had been, a better daughter or something, and they're just, it's healing in some fashion. And there was this guy, for example, that's changing the subject a little bit, but there's this one guy in Nova Scotia who is suffering with cancer and having treatments, and his wife has begun baking again after their initial shock about the whole thing that they're going through. And he said, he wrote and he said, some days are really bad. And he said, I'm in bed and she crawls in beside me and we put Tunes and Wooden Spoons on the big TV.
Oh.
And he said, it passes the time, and it's something about my voice, he said, is really calming, and it really means a lot to them. So, like, there's that. And then there's a lady, I'm just thinking of two incidences where there's this lady in Glace Bay, and she's in her 90s, and she lives, I think it's next door to her daughter. They're very, very close. She has been watching from the very beginning. She's a little bit hard of hearing, so she really needs to listen closely. And she had a big family of 8 or 9 children. And her daughter said from Wednesday to Sunday, she talks about what I'm going to bake on Sunday. And from Sunday to Wednesday, she talks about what I did bake the other 3 days. And she is just so calmed by it and loves, especially when I'm making bread or whatever, and it's reminding her of days gone by. And in this last 2 months, she lost another daughter very suddenly. And I reached out to her once I heard about it, and I just sent her a little book about Chicken Soup for the Soul, an angel book. And she wrote me a card back, and with her own handwriting, and she's talking about how she loves just reading a little chapter of that, and that it reminds her of her daughter, and her daughter just at Christmas gave her an angel that turns it she keeps it up, and it reminds her of her daughter, and how I sent her the angel book. It's just there's the connections like that. There's so many connections like that. I'm just
so you've become
overwhelmed.
You've become other people's angel.
Maybe. I don't know.
Isn't that wonderful?
But it's really nice. I think it means that some of these people are alone, and they're going through sad times. Can't come home to Nova Scotia if they're from there, because there's a lot of Cape Bretoners all over the world that are tuning in, and it just kind of links them to home, and maybe an old-fashioned kitchen that they are comfortable, and it brings them back, and it helps them.
It's so important.
It is.
I know
yeah.
here at Telile, sometimes we will, well, quite frequently, we always air local musicians and musicians from around.
Yeah.
Well, we have them come from Sydney. They come from Halifax. Yeah. They come from here.
Yes.
And I do get calls, and they say, "Thank you so much for playing that. Can you play that again on Friday?" And I'll say, "Sure, no problem."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because and they tell me the same thing. It makes us feel like we're home.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And it's so important. I mean, you are dealing with two of the most comforting things in the world as well: food and music. That's
what we are.
It's a winning combination.
We gather together, and it's over food and conversation.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a winning combination.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am so pleased that you've done this.
It was so accidental, but it's something. There's something magic about it, and I'm just going to keep on going.
Well, yeah. I hope you do, because you've been around for a year.
We are going to have on March 21st. We're going to have an anniversary show, and hopefully a lot of the family can be home for that, because with all of these COVID rules and stuff like that, the ones in Halifax, we're hoping that they can come down and be part of it, and hopefully by then that can
Great
happen.
big kitchen party.
Yes.
Oh, that would
yes.
be beautiful.
Yes.
That would be great.
So I'm looking forward to that, and who knew? And I'm working on a cookbook now, and that might be not going to be out anytime soon. And I keep saying, why would you want a cookbook when all of the recipes are posted on the website? They're free, but they want that. So working on that for this Christmas or at the very latest spring of 2022. So.
Strange that you mentioned that, because while you were speaking about these stories that with the elderly lady and the men with cancer,
yes,
I was thinking how lovely it would be to have some of those stories incorporated into your cookbook.
Oh, I know. Yeah, the publishing company that wants to do it are looking at having some stories in it and making it a Cape Breton book besides the recipes and that. So. Didn't sign the contract yet. We're just kind of working on it right now, but I think that's going to happen.
All good things come in time.
They do. they do.
I'm just so happy to see Cape Breton so well represented.
Yeah. Oh, look, I just want people to come here.
Well,
and isn't it great?
People want to come here.
Yeah.
It's one of the safest places in the world right now.
It totally is. Yes. You know what? I was going to tell you about something that's happening this Monday. There's a Girl Guide troupe from Edmonton, Alberta, who have been learning all about Canada, and they've been raising money. And when COVID is over, guess where they're coming?
Here.
They're coming here, and they have a regular meeting on Monday nights via Zoom with their leaders, and so I'm part of that this coming Monday night, and we're going to bake together, and they are going to ask me some questions about the Maritimes, and I have to study up on some of that. But they saved this money, and as soon as COVID's over, they're coming here, and hopefully I'll meet them as well. But they're excited about that. So it's really nice to see that happening. Not that maybe that wouldn't have happened anyway with them, but it's kind of nice.
Well, it's interesting how a pandemic has changed the world.
Hasn't it?
It hasn't all been negative.
No.
Some of it's been actually positive.
Yeah,
I think the communication part of that.
Oh, yes. It's been a huge learning curve.
Wow, yeah.
For so many people, but they're doing it,
And, rethinking the way things are done, the way rethink the way we do things. I mean, I'm sure that you'd agree that, our grandmothers always said to us, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands.
Yes, exactly.
And that's because they were in the pandemic earlier in the century,
that's
like last century.
That's right.
So, I mean, they still have valuable lessons to teach us.
That's right. That's right.
And, the traditional baking stuff. Well, those are recipes that are passed down forever and ever and ever. I know that my grandmother used to boil this white pudding with raisins in it in a bag and put this sauce on it. And if you think, I wish I could find that recipe.
Is it something like a plum pudding?
It
like
wasn't.
With raisins?
It was white.
It was white.
It was white pudding. It wasn't. It had raisins only. It didn't have any nuts or.
You're right. Yes.
But she would boil it in this bag, and I'm thinking that eventually I will come across that recipe.
I'm telling you, I love sitting down and going through. I have a ton of recipe books, and but there's this one book that came out of St. Anne's over near the Guild College many years ago, and I have that book, and in it, the first section of it have the how to make a lot of the old dishes, and you know how McLeod guy left St. Anne's and went down to Waipu in New Zealand, and there's a section in it of their old recipes that they kind of went from Scotland to St. Anne's. So a lot of people will private message me and ask for certain recipes, and I'll go looking, and a lot of the time I find them. I'm going to look for that for you, just in case it might be in there.
I haven't gone through my mother's things.
Yes.
But when I do, I have a feeling I will find that.
Oh, I hope you do.
And my grandmother was a person who left school at age 10
Yes.
and went to work in the lumber camps as a cook.
My gosh. Oh my gosh.
So I'm sure that she had lots of.
No doubt
And
about
she
it.
was, and yeah, and then she ended up marrying somebody. She was taking care of his parents.
Yes.
And ended up marrying him
Right.
and had 8 children, and then he died young
Okay.
after he came back from war. So she was a tough cookie, and she made ends meet, but she made some of the most. That white, I wish I knew how to make it. I can't, my mother even said, I wish I could make it.
Well, I had a great find last year after this whole Tunes and Wooden Spoons started. Okay, so my mother died in 1955, and my father's sister had lived in the same home as them until she got married. And my mother, I guess, had a scribbler of her recipes. And it was getting, all marked up from baking and stains and all of that. So she rewrote everything in a new scribbler. We don't know where that scribbler ever ended up. But that old scribbler, my aunt asked her, can I just have the old scribbler? And she went on to be married and moved to Margery Forks. And when she passed away a few years ago, they're emptying out the house and they're selling the old house. And my brother ended up with a box of just jumbles of things that nobody else wanted from the house. And last spring, he resurrected this box and went through it, and in it was the scribbler of my mother's recipes. Some of them are stained and whatever, but I have them, and we're going to incorporate some part of that into the cookbook. But you never know, maybe your recipe is in that scribbler too.
You never know. And I just know that, like my mother also, by the way, I loved her cinnamon rolls. And I haven't really tasted any like them since.
Yeah.
And, it was one of those things.
Yeah.
I
brings you.
Yeah, I would do it. My children all remember the cinnamon rolls too. But what I remember the most, this is going to sound ridiculous maybe, my grandmother, when there was a whole bunch of us around, like children, and we needed a sweet snack,
Yes.
something that she would decide to treat us, she would make fresh biscuits, like those big tall ones.
Yes.
And she would stir up Sheriff's lemon pie filling until it just got runny, and she dumped that over the hot biscuits.
Oh my gosh.
That was so good.
I'm making something like that coming up on March 11th? No. April 11th. Have you ever heard of the author Leslie Crew?
No.
Leslie Crew lives in Homeville, Cape Breton Island. She has about 13 or 14 books to her credit, fictional books. A lot of them are based on Cape Breton Island. I don't think she was born in Cape Breton, but this is where she lives, and she is a wonderful author. And one of her books, I think, is set maybe in St. Peter's. A lot of her characters, and just amazing author. Love her. And anyway, her last book I got for Christmas. I have most of her books, and it's called The Spoon Stealer. And the main character, the main part of the story happens in London, England, but the lady is from Nova Scotia. Pictou County is how you figure it out as the book goes along. So anyway, Leslie Crew, I mentioned this book on my show one day in case anybody's interested in a good book. I said, I just finished this book. It's awesome. Leslie Crew, Cape Breton author, all of that stuff. Well, she got like a whole bunch of likes on her page, and she reached out to me, and we've been talking, and she's coming on the show on April the 11th to do a reading from this last book. So we're trying to come up with something that has a kind of an English thread to the recipe. So we've decided I'm going to make these drop biscuits, and lemon curd.
Perfect.
And it's supposed to have clotted cream with it, but I've looked for the recipe of clotted cream. I'm not going there. It takes like 48 hours to get it right, so can't do that. But similar to what your mom with the lemon, it's a kind of a same kind of an idea, but that's what we're planning on that day. So you'll have to watch on that day.
Oh, I will.
April the 11th.
Well, I like watching because it's the one day that I can actually just
relax,
my cup of tea and my
Yes.
cats, and I'm
There's
cool.
so many people that just watch it. They're not bakers, or they're not going to bake, or they'll bake later, but they just sit and enjoy what's happening.
It's like having company.
Yeah, we're having a cup of tea together,
Well, really, I know that at the beginning of the pandemic, everything was very unsure about how things were going to go. In my job, I mean, we don't have a lot of people in the building, so we can socially distance, but we weren't sure about how things were going to go at first. Nobody really was.
Yeah.
My other half is a long haul trucker. So, I mean, I decided and made a decision, well, also under the advice of the health department at that time, who still didn't know, that I should probably isolate away from everybody.
Really?
So I did for 3 months.
Oh.
So for 3 months in my home, sometimes you start to go stir crazy. My friend had my bank card. She would just drop stuff off outside. I really didn't have to get out of my pajamas.
Yes.
And, it's not like anybody was going to drop in.
Yeah, exactly.
But it teaches you a lot about what you like and what you don't like. It teaches you a lot about yourself.
Right.
But what I did notice that there were certain television shows that I would be watching all the time. And it became a comfort to me to watch them. And it's going to sound ridiculous, but it was like Say Yes to the Dress. I got so involved in that. It was like Randy was my family.
I know.
And I would be like so comforted every time I heard his voice. And that's when I realized you need to get out of the house. I mean, yes, cool, but a little bit much, And it's not like I was going to get married again.
Oh my gosh.
It was just that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I think that the older generation especially would appreciate what you're doing because they can grasp it.
Yeah, they can relate to it.
I mean, there are so many, as we get older, and I'm sure you understand this one too, you start to wonder, like, ooh, I don't know what that means. Should I ask anybody? Because they're going to think I'm dumb, right? You know what I mean?
Oh my God, isn't that the truth?
No, it's like when I started noticing the English language changing. Probably, what is that? Probably, Mom. It means probably. It's like, no, it says probably. Probably's not a word.
I know there's so many new words coming out with these young people.
And then they use these words. They use like letters.
Yes.
What does this letter mean? And then I'm thinking, uh-oh. What does that mean?
Oh,
what did I just say? Like, or you don't know whether to like it or not because you don't know if it's good or bad.
Yes, I know.
Well,
go to Google.
Yeah, I Google a lot of things. And my daughter has become wise to that. She'll say, so I bet you just Googled that, Mom. It's like, oh, fine, I Googled it. It's like, So I really appreciate you coming. I am so excited to watch your next show. And I think that everybody who wants to feel the Cape Breton love should watch your show.
Thank you.
So every Sunday at 2, correct?
Every Sunday at 2, yes, at Nova Scotia time.
Nova Scotia Atlantic Standard Time.
And from 2, anywhere from 2 until 3:30, sometimes, depends on what I'm making on the day. And it really is a tutorial. There's lots of baking and cooking shows out there, and they fast forward or whatever, but there are so many people that would never attempt maybe making bread if they didn't have the absolute real time, what are you doing at this point? So I'm going to keep doing it that way.
And I think you should.
Good.
I think you should keep doing it that way.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's working.
Yeah, they're getting.
It's obviously working.
They like it, so I'm going to keep on going.
I think like is actually not the word I would probably use. I think they love it.
Yeah.
And I can see why. You're a pretty lovable person, and you have to have a good sense of humor.
Yes.
And I know that you're going to be. I know some of the guests that you have upcoming, and we'll keep that a secret and let you take care of that. But in the meantime, everybody, I think you should all Check it out on Facebook. Tunes and Wooden Spoons. You will not be disappointed. And make sure you like that
Like
page.
and follow.
Like
Yes.
and follow, because you will not be disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Becky. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.